Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Yaman, and I provide daily updates on Tesla, markets, and technology. Let's get started. Markets are down today. Dow Jones is down slightly. Nasdaq is down 1.4%. S&P 500 is down 0.6%. Russell 2000 is down 0.8%. Oil is down below $62 per barrel. Yield curve is down 3 basis points across the curve. Palantir is down 8%. Let's look at the heat map. NVIDIA is leading everybody down at negative 3%. Broadcom 3.6, AMD down 5%. Intel is up 7%. Palantir, like I said, 8%. Oracle down 4%. Meta is down 2%. Every other Max 7 company is down about 1%. Consumer defensive stocks are up. Restaurants are up. Home improvement, Home Depot, we're going to look into. They announced earnings up 3%. Dow briefly hits record high as Home Depot puts focus on retail earnings. The blue chip Dow briefly hit a record high on Tuesday, aided by a rise in Home Depot shares after the retailer kept its annual forecast intact, while caution dominated the overall mood ahead of a Federal Reserve conference later this week. The Nasdaq slid more than 1% to its lowest in a week as mega caps Nvidia and Microsoft lost 2% and 1.4%, having rallied for much of the year. These are as of an hour ago, so I just read you the updated numbers. Home Depot rose 4.6% despite missing quarterly results estimates, while rival home improvement chain Lowe's gained 1.9%. Earnings from Lowe's and big box retailers Walmart and Target later this week are now in focus as investors await more insight on the health of the American consumer. The consumers are still not really spending at full speed ahead. They are a little cautious, said Peter Cardillo, chief market economist at Spartan Capital Securities. They're waiting to see full results of the tariff impact on the upcoming holiday sales in a couple of months from now. On the policy front, remarks from Fed Vice Chair for Supervision, Michelle Bowman, are due later in the day. Bowman, who is under consideration for the central bank's top job when Chair Jerome Powell's term ends next year, has voiced support for at least 3 interest rates cuts this year, in line with President Donald Trump's calls for lower borrowing costs. Interest rate futures point to a total of 2 rate cuts this year, worth 25 basis points each, with the first expected in September, according to data compiled by LSEG. Wall Street's main indices have rebounded from April lows when trade uncertainties struck global markets. Okay. Jackson Hole meeting coming up on Friday. Intel up 7%, highest since February, after the chipmaker got a $2 billion capital injection from Japan's SoftBank Group. Medtronic lost 4%. The company said it would add 2 new directors to its board after Elite Investment Management took a large stake in the medical device maker. All right. Let's move on to a couple of Tesla Elon news. Judges hand Elon Musk double legal blow. Elon Musk and Tesla suffered a pair of legal setbacks on Monday after federal judges in California and Maryland certified separate class action lawsuits against carmaker and its CEO personally. The rulings opened the door for broader litigation over Tesla's marketing of its self-driving technology and Musk's alleged role in efforts to defund the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Musk has not publicly responded to either ruling. Newsweek contacted Tesla and USAID for comment via email outside of normal hours on Tuesday. A class action lawsuit allows one or more people sue on behalf of a larger group with similar claims. Instead of each person filing separately, the court treats them as a single class, making litigation more efficient and giving individuals who might not sue on their own the ability to pursue claims collectively. If plaintiffs win or reach a settlement, the outcome typically applies to everyone in the class unless they opt out. Certification of the Tesla class action magnifies the company's legal and financial risk by grouping customers into a single lawsuit. Certification of the USAID class action raises Musk's potential liability and exposes him to wider discovery into his personal actions. Together, the new rulings highlight Musk's growing exposure in the courtroom. The rulings do not decide liability but mark a pivotal stage, significantly raising the stakes. In California, so one of the rulings tells a ruling. In California, U.S. District Judge Rita F. Lynn certified two classes in litigation over Tesla's claims that its vehicles were equipped for full self driving capability. The case centers on statements by Tesla and Musk that all vehicles produced since late 2016 had the hardware necessary for level 5 autonomy. At an October 2016 press conference, Musk said, quote, "Basic news is that all cars exiting the factory have hardware necessary for level 5 autonomy. So that's in terms of cameras, compute power, it's in every car we make, literally meaning hardware capable of full self-driving for driverless capability," court papers said. Plaintiffs argue those claims misled consumers into purchasing costly packages such as enhanced autopilot and full self-driving. One named plaintiff, Thomas Losivo, said he spent $8,000 on the packages because he believed full autonomy would soon be available. Tesla has disputed allegations it missold features, pointing to disclosures that FSD was subject to validation and regulatory approval. But the court ruled those statements did not negate the broader message that vehicles already had the hardware for autonomy. Tesla's lawyers opposed class certification, arguing plaintiffs cannot represent all buyers exposed to self-driving claims since October 2016, noting some owners value the features and may not want them deactivated. Judge Lin concluded that Tesla's representations were widespread enough to affect California purchasers and could form the basis for class-wide claims under consumer protection and fraud statutes. Quote, "Plaintiff has shown by a preponderance of the evidence that class members were exposed to the hardware statement from October 16 to August 2024, end quote, she wrote. Two subclasses were certified, one covering California residents who purchased FSD packages between October 2016 and May 2017, and another for those who opted out of Tesla's arbitration agreement between 2017 and mid-2024. An injunctive relief class was also certified, which could bar Tesla from making similar statements unless vehicles can actually drive themselves. That's not going to stop you. USAID ruling. Meanwhile, the Maryland U.S. District Judge Theodore Chuang certified a class action against Musk personally. In Jane Doe 4 versus Musk, plaintiffs allege that Musk was involved in efforts to dismantle or defund USAID programs, undermining the agency's operations. The lawsuit, filed by USAID employees and the State Democracy Defenders Fund, alleges that only someone nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate as an officer of the United States could dismantle the agency. Plaintiffs allege Musk, an informal advisor to President Donald Trump, was involved in efforts aligned with the second Trump administration's attempt to dismantle USAID. The judge's two-page certification order allows plaintiffs to press collective claims rather than pursue them individually. While the court did not detail the alleged conduct in Monday's filing, the decision means Musk could face broader liability if the claims are proven. Musk lawyers argued class certification was unnecessary, saying overlapping lawsuits already cover the claims and would add significant additional complexity and burdens on the court. What people are saying. Plaintiff Thomas Losevio, who paid about $8,000 for the full self-driving feature in 2017, said in his testimony he was, quote, still waiting for the technology 6 years later, well, now 8, with Tesla remaining unable, even remotely, to produce fully self-driving car, end quote. Judge Theodore Chuang, March 18, 2025 decision on USAID read, quote, where Congress has prescribed the existence of USAID in statute pursuant to its legislative powers under Article 1, the President's Article 2 power does not provide authority for the unilateral, drastic actions taken to dismantle the agency, end quote. Plaintiff's counsel in the USAID case, Norm Eisen, Executive chair of the State Democracy Defenders Fund, told Washington Post on March 18, quote, "They're performing surgery with a chainsaw instead of a scalpel, harming not just the people the USA serves, but the majority of Americans who count on the stability of our government. This case is a milestone in pushing back on Musk and Doge's illegality," end quote. Deputy Press Secretary for the White House, Anna Kelly, responded in the March 19 statement, quote, "If these judges want to force their partisan ideologies across the government, they should run for office themselves. The Trump administration will appeal this miscarriage of justice and fight back against all activist judges, blah, blah, blah." What happens next? The Tesla case will now move toward trial, with plaintiffs seeking damages in the form of refunds for FSC purchase and subscriptions. So, I mean, you're looking at billions of dollars of liability, basically, possibly. A September 24 conference will set the schedule as discovery begins, and with Tesla expected to seek dismissal. In the USAID case, class members will be notified as discovery and motions proceed, potentially expanding Musk's liability. I mean, none of this is going to change any of his behavior, but it just piles up. Just how much has Doge exaggerated its numbers? It's a new article from by Politico that Elon tried to discredit, but it seems fine to me. Just how much has Doge exaggerated its numbers? Now we have receipts. A Politico analysis of Doge data reveals the organization saved less than 5% of its claimed savings from nearly 10,100 contract terminations. Counting this ceiling value gives a false picture of savings for taxpayers. That's the equivalent of basically taking out a credit card with a $20,000 credit limit, canceling it, and then saying, "I've just saved $20,000, said Jessica Tillipman, Associate Dean for Government Procurement Law Studies at George Washington University Law School. Anything that's been said publicly about Doge's savings is meaningless." I agree. The White House disagrees. Doge has produced historic savings for American people. I mean, of course, what will Trump say after getting so much money from Elon? Doge's public list of records, or what it calls a wall of receipts, says the site only represents a subset of our organization's overall savings. However, even among the sample of contracts it posted through July, roughly 40% of claim savings could not be verified due to a lack of identifying information. Doge's fuzzy math. Doge claims it has saved $202 billion across the whole of federal government from a combination of contract, lease, and grant cancellations, workforce reductions, regulation clawbacks, and more. To create savings from canceling contracts or other awards, Doge has a few options. The president could formally claw back funds through Capitol Hill, a process where Congress cancels dollars it had previously appropriated, which it did this month for the first time in decades. Or agencies could reclaim awarded funds for later use, an action known as de-obligation. To assess Doge's actual savings so far from canceled contracts, Politico created a database of every traceable termination post on Doge's wall of receipts through July 26 that was at least 1 month old, about 10,100 contracts. Over this period, agencies have issued clawbacks or de-obligations on less than 30% of those awards, recovering $1.4 billion in funds. Even if agencies immediately recovered all unspent funds from these 10,100 contracts, the total savings will amount to less than 40% of what Doge has taken credit for. And agencies would still be on the hook to spend those dollars unless Congress or the president intervened, though some in the administration have said they could simply spend less. Roughly 2,400 cancellations on Doge's termination list through July cannot be independently verified. Some of these cancellations were simply too recent to show up in public records, but most had their identifying information redacted by Doge, which has often labeled those entries as unavailable for legal reasons. The Interior Department, which administers the contract, referred questions to HHS. Doge also claims $166 million in savings from canceling a contract that plays a central role in the Energy Department's ability to keep household appliances like refrigerators and microwaves as efficient as possible. The Energy Department is required by law to set efficiency standards on roughly 70 products and appliances in order to reduce energy demand. Under an 8-year contract, Doge claims to have canceled. Consulting firm Guidehouse Incorporated provided the analysis used to set these standards. The Energy Department said the contract had not been canceled, but reduced, saying it achieved 60% in significant savings for the American taxpayer. Doge posted the contract on its list of terminations a few weeks before the agency repealed 20 appliance efficiency standards in May, without any supporting evidence, said Emily Hammond, who served as Deputy General Counsel at the Energy Department during Biden administration. Doge seems to be abnegating its duties, Hammond said. Congress has required the agency to do its homework, and it doesn't appear to be doing that homework. While Doge claims $166 million in savings from terminating the agreement, federal spending records show the Energy Department has recalled $0 and removed just under $100 million from those contracts' ceiling value. At most, that translates to $0 in savings to date and around $100 million in potentially avoided future costs. The irony, Hammond said, is that the efficiency standards Guidehouse helped create save billions of dollars for consumers. The cost of developing them is quite small in contrast to its enormous impact, Hammond said. The Energy Department has said dropping the regulations will lower costs for consumers, but efficiency standards saved households and businesses $105 billion in 2024, according to the department's own data, a far cry from Doge's claim $166 million in savings. Guidehouse declined to comment on the status of this contract. The future of the wall of receipts and the organization remains uncertain. Updates to Doge's public accounting page have become more infrequent since Musk's exit in May. The page's 3 most recent updates represented the longest periods of silence since the site launched in February. It was stagnant for most of June and went nearly 4 weeks before posting a new terminations in July. Another 17 days passed before its latest update in August. The same is true of Trump and Musk's relationship. After leaving Doge, Musk declared war on Trump's mega bill, which the president signed into law on the 4th of July. The two took their breakup to X, lobbing insults on the world stage. Quote, "What the heck was the point of Doge if Trump's just going to increase the debt by $5 trillion, end quote, Musk wrote on X in July, referring to the deficit increase. The law will increase the national debt by $3.4 trillion, according to Congressional Budget Office. Now, Musk has committed to starting a third party with the same goal. Not going to happen. All right. Let's go back to the stock market. Stock market today. S&P 500, NASDAQ slide as Home Depot leads out retail earnings. Trade mixed on Tuesday as Home Depot led out this week's results for retail giants. I'm going to skip this one because the Reuters article earlier in this episode covers most of the stuff. Let me just quickly skim through, see if there's anything. Okay. Let's dig into Home Depot results. Home Depot stock rises as company says sales growth accelerated during Q2, affirms annual outlook. Home Depot stock rose as much as 4% on Tuesday after the company said its same-store sales growth improved throughout the second quarter as a drop in interest rates appears to have returned some life into the U.S. housing market. The company reported that the same-store sales rose 1% in the second quarter, its second straight quarter of improvement. In the U.S., same-store sales rose 1.4%, the third straight quarter that this measure saw year-over-year gains. CEO told analysts on Tuesday that the company exited the second quarter with same-store sales rising 3.3% over the prior year in July. May's and June's increases were each less than 1%. Ticket growth for the second quarter was up 1.4%, while transaction growth fell slightly due to higher priced goods like lumber and copper and decrease in promotional activity. Tickets worth over $1,000 were up 2.6% compared to the second quarter of 2024. Executive Vice President of Merchandising Billy Bastek told investors on the earnings call. He added, "We continue to see softer engagement in larger discretionary projects where customers typically use financing to fund the renovation project." I'm going to skip this detail. Decker told investors on Tuesday the momentum that began in the back half of last year continued throughout the first half as customers engaged more broadly in smaller home improvement projects. CFO said the retailer has its eyes on the interest rate cut widely expected to come soon, but it is still waiting to see whether the cut will affect the borrow rates that matter to consumers, such as mortgage rates, he told Yahoo Finance. They are still quite elevated relative to recent history, and we know that it's leading our customers to defer larger projects, he said. It's hard to say what rates may have to do to unlock that spend on large projects, but our customers do tell us that they're deferring. They're not canceling. So either rates decrease or we all get used to this as a new normal. Okay. Oh, thank you, Zachary, very much for the $5 tip. Zachary says, keep up the truth telling. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This tariff topic, people look at this as a one-time increase in prices, but these have been kind of rolling on into different industries, different products and services. So we're seeing the average tariff rate increase month after month, and I think that's going to be kind of the story that we see in the inflation side as well. I think the inflation impact from tariffs is going to be greater in the next couple of months than it was in the last couple of months. And we'll see when it peaks. I think it's probably going to peak somewhere around Q4, but and then we'll see what happens in 2026. So let's kind of read through this a little bit more. U.S. adds 407 product categories to steel and aluminum tariffs list. The U.S. Department of Commerce on Tuesday announced the addition of 407 product categories to its list of derivative steel and aluminum products subject to tariffs. Today's action covers wind turbines and their parts and components, mobile cranes, bulldozers, and other heavy equipment, rail cars, furniture, compressors, and pumps, and hundreds of other products, the Commerce Department said in a statement. The products added to the list will be subject to a duty rate of 50%, 50%, the statement said. Wild. Curious to see what Powell is going to say on Friday. I'm not really holding my breath on anything earth shattering, but I think he might just punt to the next meeting. An Apple robot will need a lot of AI help. Apple is reportedly planning a push into robotics as it continues its search for its next hit product. That includes developing a robotic arm outfitted with an iPad-like display and exploring wheeled and humanoid robots down the line, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. The move could also bolster Apple's smart home efforts, which to this point have centered around its HomePod and HomePod Mini. And while Apple has made some headway into robotics via prototypes and research, its prospects in this space could all come down to ensuring it has the AI chops to build a home robot that can understand and respond to requests. It all falls back to how that voice-based interface works and how accurate it is. And that's the part that Apple has been arguably falling behind on, TechAnalysis founder and chief analyst explained. Apple did not respond to a request for comment. Apple has faced continuous criticism for delaying its AI-powered versions of Siri from this year to sometime in 2026, leaving questions about the company's AI capabilities. According to Gurman, Apple is working on 2 new versions of Siri, one that runs on its own in-house AI model and another powered by third-party models. The company will eventually decide which of the 2 makes it into products. But there's still no sense of when it will be ready for prime time. Still, Apple is working on consumer robotics and can get the products to market. It has a good shot at winning over customers. What I like about it is this is Apple doing what Apple does, explained Bill Ray, Distinguished Vice President Analyst and Chief of Research. Okay. Okay, never mind. AI will be key. Part of Apple's robotics push will report, and I'm just finish this guy's quote. It takes existing technologies, often other people's technologies, and makes them elegant. Okay. AI will be key. Part of Apple's robotics push will reportedly include a robotic arm with a display that Bloomberg said it's similar to a research project Apple unveiled in January. The project called Elegant, Expressive and Functional Movement Design for Non-Anthropomorphic Robot. Tomorrow, let's read about this tomorrow. Features a lamp-like design with a projector at the top that can act as a light or project video content onto a nearby surface. Interesting. But the key to the arm is how it responds to user interaction. Rather than sharp, direct movements, the arm moves as if it's exhibiting emotion. For instance, it can lower its projector as if it's dropping its head to appear sad, and it can gently push a glass of water toward you to remind you to stay hydrated. Yeah, very interesting. All right, we're gonna read this document. Actually, maybe I can do this tonight. We'll see. All right. TechCrunch Mobility, Ford's big bet. Welcome back to TechCrunch Mobility, your central hub for news and blah, blah, blah. Ford made its big EV announcement earlier this week, a plan to invest $2 billion to transform its Louisville assembly plant into a factory capable of making a new generation of affordable EVs, starting with mid-sized pickup truck with a base price of $30,000 that is slated to launch in 2027. Amid the presentations from various executives, union leaders, and employees, CEO Jim Farley said something I couldn't quite shake. There are no guarantees with this project. We're doing so many new things. I can't tell you with 100% certainty that this will go just right. It's a bet. There's a risk. The bet, the company put together a skunkworks team, which worked for a couple of years to find a way to build a line of affordable EVs that could be made in the United States faster, more efficiently, and with fewer parts, all while preserving profit margins. To do that, the company has scrapped the century-old system that made Ford a household name and developed a new three-pronged assembly line that uses more automation and unicastings. Ford, like many other automakers, is being squeezed by tariffs, slower than expected EV demand, and the looming threat of competition from China. The company has to act if it wants to stay relevant, but is this the move? Ford can't really use this manufacturing technique at other factories since it's pinned to how vehicle is designed and then split into three unicastings, a major departure from the method used to assemble its other vehicles. What this means is we're witnessing a $5 billion experiment, $3 billion from the LFP battery factory and $2 billion for Louisville, to keep jobs in the US. A few little birds told us that the rental car startup, okay, that's a different one. Let's move on to kind of running long on time. Let's read the summary on this one. Trump targets corporate America to achieve economic and foreign policy goals. President Trump is using the full force of the United States government to directly intervene in corporate matters to achieve economic and foreign policy goals. This includes seeking a portion of revenue from AI chip sales to China, potentially becoming Intel's largest shareholder, and investing in rare earth mining company. These actions, while potentially enriching investors and bolstering national security, are risky bets that could result in taxpayer losses and market distortions. Yeah. Let's read this. Curious. There's a big change going on right now with Trump administration taking a stake in Intel, I think. I haven't really followed it. I was on vacation last week, but I don't know how that helps. It's more of a Chinese way of doing things, but he didn't campaign on it. It wasn't even broached during his first administration. He criticized his predecessor for it. But this month, President Donald Trump made it clear that he's willing to use the full force of the US government to directly intervene in corporate matters to achieve his economic and foreign policy goals. Trump, backed by his team of Wall Street financiers, took the unprecedented step of seeking to collect a portion of money generated from sales of AI chips to China by NVIDIA and AMD. And in a move that could see the US government become Intel's largest shareholder, the administration is said to be in talks for taking a 10% stake in the beleaguered chipmaker. Last month, the Pentagon also decided to take a $400 million preferred equity stake in a little-known rare earth mining company. In a series of moves that has surprised Wall Street and Washington policy veterans, who privately and publicly acknowledged they've never seen anything like it in their decades-long careers. The actions, if successful, could leave private. I mean, I don't know how that, how is that different from the US government taking a stake in GM after the Great Recession? So I'll have to think about this. So I have the Apple paper to think through and this news. The actions, if successful, could leave private investors and average 401k savings holders enriched while catapulting US national security further ahead of China. But there are also risky bets that could end with taxpayer losses and distort markets in ways investors can't predict. Quote, I'm very concerned that we're going to have these rolling sectors where the president starts saying, you have to pay us just to sell internationally. Lee Munson, Chief Investment Officer at Portfolio Wealth Advisors with $390 million in AUM, said. Where does this end? I don't even know how to buy companies right now that have exposure to China, that have high-tech IP. The Trump administration's direct involvement in corporate matters is becoming a marker for the president's second term. Trump, a self-described deal maker, has a mixed track record of success, yet has vowed to bring more of a business approach to governing in Washington. In addition to the NVIDIA and AMD revenue promise and potential Intel investment stake, his administration secured the golden share from Nippon Steel Corp, a Japanese steelmaker that gives Trump personal power to make decisions on U.S. Steel Corp corporate decisions. In these cases, the administration is picking winners and losers and risks undermining the free flow of capital. Yeah. Let's read the summary on this. U.S. oil and gas M&A activity tripled last year, report says. U.S. oil and gas M&A activity tripled in 2024, driven by large players like ExxonMobil, Diamondback Energy, and ConocoPhillips. Despite softer commodity prices, companies focus on efficiency and profits through scale, leading to a 25% decrease in dividend and share repurchase payments. Markets are bounced back a little bit since we started, just a tiny bit. Nasdaq still down 1.3%, led by NVIDIA and Broadcom and AMD. On that note, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Zachary, again for your tip. And I will chat with you all next time. Take care.